one of the things I used to do to pass the time is I would lay on my bunk and just brainstorm and daydream about different ideas or different things that I could possibly do when I was out. And then when I would settle on something that I like, I would just jot it down. And then I would get super detailed because again, I have time. So I would draw out, basically make my business plan, how much I'm going to sell it. I would get into the details of like pricing, how much I want to sell it for, how many employees I'm going to hire, how much square foot of a building I need. And some of these things I didn't know the answer, but I would make assumptions. But going through this mental exercise, basically building businesses in my mind from start to finish, just gave me a lot of exercise so that when I was released and I actually did it in the real world, it didn't feel like the same. It didn't feel like the first time. It felt like I had been rehearsing this over and over and over again, because that was like one of my outlets, right? So, just noticing, and I would just walk around the compound and I would see people complain about their mail or lack of mail or lack of communication or expensive for the phone calls. And I would just jot that down. It's like, hey, if I was going to solve this problem, what would I do? And then go through that whole exercise. I would see people complain about, their family members having issues with finding housing and real estate. And I said, okay, if I was going to solve this problem, how would I solve it? And then I would just do that over and over again. I would meet somebody. You would bump, particularly in federal prison, you have a whole gambit of inmates, right? So it's not just dudes on the street. Like you have dudes from Wall Street, you have politicians, you have, Fortune 500 company CEOs, you have the whole gambit in federal prisons, right? So also I would talk to a lot of different people and I would hear a lot of things and it would get the wheels turning and you will learn. So basically I just turned my environment into somewhere for me to learn. And prison is like that for most people. Like most people I know, they're learning something. So it's either you're gonna sharpen your skills and you're gonna come out and be a better criminal, or you're gonna sharpen your skills, you're gonna come out and learn something else. So there's guys I know guys that went in, came out, certified electricians, certified plumbers, CDL licenses, they certified barbers, so I've seen people come in and do one of those two things. Mm-hmm. And so just because there's a wealth of information that people have in there, people learn how to fix their credit. I mean, the culture in prison, part of the prison culture is people who have information, part of how they'll do their bid and how they get their time passed is that they'll teach information. So if I was a mortgage broker and I understand credit, I'll teach people how credit works. Or if I was a CEO of a Fortune 500 company and I did tax evasion or some shit like that, I'll teach people how to use Excel. And it was things like that people were spending time, and a lot of brothers was learning. A lot of brothers was really getting good information. And a lot of people that I knew that all out now, they're all doing well. And they've learned something. From trading to just all across the board, people was just learning stuff. So that's really how I spent my time. And I aligned myself with people who also spent their time that way and wasn't just, watching TV or gambling or, running cigarettes or weed or whatever. I just aligned myself with the people that was on that, and, everyone is out doing their thing.
Okay. I want you now, you get out. I want you to go a little bit into detail.
Yeah.
The problem. You kind of touched on it, the problem that you found that inmates were having on the inside. I want you to go a little bit deeper into what the problem was, and when you got out, how did you get to work on the solution?
Yeah, so the main problem that I noticed is that even in my personal experience, it was always a hassle for someone to write a letter, because people on the outside, they're moving at the speed of light. Their mode of communication is texting and phone calls, emails. They're not handwriting a letter. They don't have a time. A lot of times, they're trying to take care of the household. The person that was the main breadwinner in the household, they're the one that's in prison. So they have more responsibilities. They're stressed out. They don't have time to do that. Or on the phone systems, it was always super expensive to make the phones. So it was always a financial issue and it was a convenience and time issue. I knew that someone could make an app that would make it easy for people just to be able to upload photos, have it printed and shipped. I mean, Snapfish was a thing, Shutterfly was a thing. There was companies out there that did this. No one just focused on this demographic. And also no one really understood the needs of the demographic to make sure, for example, that the envelopes or the letters and all that stuff is done a certain way so that it doesn't pose a security risk. No one just focused on this demographic, right? To build a product that was specifically for this demographic. So, so when I got out, that's the thing that I said, you know what, I'm gonna solve that problem. I had all these ideas. I said, you know what, this is the one that I feel like is the most tangible. This is the one that I can relate to the most. I'm gonna pursue this. And that's what I pursued. So my ambitions in the very beginning was, I just wanted a place where people can go on a website, they can upload a photo, they can hit the send button. I thought I was gonna have a printer in the office that was gonna print it and ship it and send it out. I didn't realize, I wasn't thinking about scale. I wasn't thinking about how big it would get. I wasn't thinking about those things. I was trying to think of the smallest components to be able to validate that my idea was real and to validate that people would pay for this if they had it. So because I was in a halfway house at the time, so in federal prison, once you're released, they send you to a halfway house.
What year were you released?
2011.
How old are you at the time?
28? Yeah,
okay.
28.
28 years old, 2011, you get out, you go into the halfway house. Take it from here.
Yeah, so get to the halfway house, and the rules at the halfway house is that you can only leave if you have a job. And then you can only leave, if you have a job, you only leave, for the hours that you work, and you only can leave for a limited amount of hours. I think they give you like 2-3 hours a day to look for a job. Mm-hmm. They don't allow you to have a cell phone, and then at night you're still locked in a dorm. It's like a dorm area with like 6 beds, and you're locked in that dorm area. They give you lunch and dinner every day, and breakfast you figure it out. So that's basically what the program that I was put in once my sentence was done. And this is like true for any federal inmate. That's just how they do it. They want to get you in the community before they just throw you out the gates. So long story short, because I wanted to work on my business, I had to figure out how to hustle and get myself out the damn halfway house so I can work on it. So I got my co-founder Alfonso, and I had him say he was hiring me on paper. And one of the things that they do and how the business model for the halfway houses work is, if you're working, I think it's like 20% or 30% of whatever your check is, you have to pay to the halfway house. So you have to give them a pay stub, and then you have to give them a check, a money order for 30% of whatever it is of that. So what I would do is I would have him make fake pay stubs, and I would just get money orders for the 30% of what I said I was getting paid. And then I would do that. And that's how I was able to buy my way out the halfway house so I could work on the business every day. So I was in the halfway house for 6 months. So basically during those 6 months, I went from getting released to getting the product built and getting our customers in that 6-month period. And why I was rushing in that 6 months is because I knew I had 6 months of not having any rent. I knew I had 6 months where I don't have to buy lunch or dinner. And to me, that halfway house was really my accelerator. It was like my incubator to really get the business off the ground, while I didn't have a lot of the burdens that I would have had I had to say, well, damn, I got to find someplace to live. I got to pay rent. I got to do that. So I knew I needed to get something popping in that 6-month time period. So my strategy was, I went online, I started Googling. Again, I didn't have no background in technology. I'd never done the technology before. And I started Googling, and I found this website called Freelancer, and it said you can hire developers to do anything. So I went on there and I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to build. And I had a bunch of people respond. I went with the cheapest person, and it was a lady in Texas. And she was like, yeah, I can help you do this. So I said, cool. And then I just went to friends and family, the people who knew me from the streets, and they just always believed. They knew that if I said I was gonna do something, I was gonna figure out what was gonna be big. So I would get $500 here, $1,000 here, $800 here. And that's how I would pay this freelancer to get our first early version of Pigeonly built. And then once we got there, then the rest is history.
Okay. In 6 months' time, you're telling me you get out of prison, you're in a halfway house. You can only go out of the halfway house for a certain amount of hours per day. You use this time so wisely that you were able to create the first iteration of Pigeonly within 6 months?
Yeah. It was a rush thing. I mean, I just had a sense of urgency. Because
I'm asking you this because there are people who have never been to prison. There are people with nothing but time on their hand and can't get their businesses up and running in 6 months. So your level of determination is fascinating to me. The way that you were able to use every second of every hour of every day to your benefit, coming out of the system, I just find that remarkable. And I got to give it up to you, because there are free people who have been talking about an idea, and you speak to them a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, and they barely even got an incorporation at this point. What's up, guys? Thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video. Truly appreciate you. If you like anything you heard here today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you know anybody that can benefit from this message, feel free to share. Peace and love.